Hello and welcome to Tier List Tuesday.
Tier List Tuesday.
Tier List Tuesday. There's a whole new Balance Dataslate that dropped last week, so we're here to answer the age-old question, where do the factions fall on a tier list?
Yeah, I think we're going to see quite a few shifts from the old meta, but there's going to be some kings that may still reign.
That's right. I think they're fine-tuning their way towards the meta that they're looking for. A lot smaller changes this time than maybe some other Balance Dataslates, but wider hit, and so we'll see what the effects look like.
Yeah, because the current meta we're in is not bad.
No, it's pretty good.
It's not bad.
It's pretty good. It's got some outliers, but you know, we can work on that. If you like this video, we do videos like these every single week, as well as doing more in-depth tactical discussions in the War Room. That's thewarroom.vhx.tv down in the description below. There's a 3-day free trial if you want to go check that out. But if you want to see more videos like this when we put them out, please subscribe to our channel and you will get notified as soon as we do. If you have anything you think that we've missed, anything you disagree with us on, you can let us know down in the comments below. Or maybe you just think we're especially handsome today. Always handsome, but even more so today.
Always handsome.
Then you can definitely let us know. Actually, that would be very nice.
That'd be great. That'd make my day.
And let's dive right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
The Army Painter is my favorite hobby company in the entire world. My desk is literally full of Army Painter products, and it takes me from being an average painter to putting above tabletop standard models out into the tournament scene. Not only that, but the Army Painter has sponsored more competitive play than any other hobby company in the industry. They allow us to keep doing the things that we do. If you enjoy the Army Painter as much as I do, head over to thearmypainter.com where you can use the discount code ARTOFWAR5 to get a discount on your next order.
It looks like first up we have Emperor's Children.
Yeah, Emperor's Children it's an army that we were not correct on when it first came out. I was of the opinion it was very bad, but
yeah,
turns out
it's great.
Turns out it's really good. Actually, it's probably the best army going into the Balance Dataslate for a number of reasons.
Yeah, I remember reading it and being like, this army does nothing.
Nothing.
It
sucks.
Turns out it does everything.
It turns out a couple of broken data sheets and army-wide fallback, advance, shoot, and charge, and one pretty good detachment is really all you need, right? You don't need to make a 3,000 point list.
That's true.
You just need to make a 2,000 point list. So even if they only have good units to fill to 2,000 points, hey, that's fine. That doesn't matter. Who cares, right? So Emperor's Children was really good. It's very fast, very aggressive pressure army. It has probably like the best data sheet in the game, which is that Winged Demon.
That Winged Demon Prince is insane, right? Like,
don't know what they were thinking.
Anytime there are 3 Winged Demon Princes in a list, something has gone wrong, right? Yeah. Like, you should be allowed 1, and it should stop there.
Yeah,
right?
So they did a good job with like the Death Guard and the World Eaters Princes, where the first one, really good.
Really good.
The second one is mostly just there for its stats, which not really worth it.
It's not that great.
The Emperor's Children Winged Demon Prince is really good, and then it gets better in multiples because it gets more annoying to deal with the more of them there are. Like, you use your ability to kill one on one of them and the other two hit you really hard. Does a bunch of impact mortals, it hits decently hard, it has -1 damage, it has a 2-up save, it has access to armor, contempt, and coterie. It's a truly vile data sheet. It went up 20 points. I don't think that matters. You're still running 3 of them. And then you also have the Lord Exultant plus Infractor packages, and then you have Noise Marines, and that fills your 2K. And that list, plus Lucius the Eternal, went up a clean 110 points, and I'm here to tell you I don't think that matters.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough. I think their rules are just still too powerful, right? And their data sheets are still really quite powerful. I mean, maybe we'll see the cutting of the 3rd Demon Prince.
I would be shocked.
I would be shocked. I think you're probably just going to hit like maybe an Exultant package or something.
I think there was like some points of flex in there, like an extra Tormentor, an extra Rhino, plus Lord Cacophonist that you could drop.
Yeah.
And that'll just be the list.
I think you can trim the fat a little and then keep the same core package and you just keep on trucking.
I'll be honest, I wrote a list with EC and I was like, what actually changed here? Like, what are we doing? It's still pretty crazy. The power in EC is it's an army that will just keep hitting you until it's dead.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do to stop that. It is very fast and it all falls back in shoots and it all falls back in charges. And there are some restrictions in there, but a good EC player will get around them.
Also notably that they really like the new Challenger card system there. There's like actually quite a few Challenger cards that are super powerful for the Emperor's Children. Like the Burst of Speed, any of the extra D6 movement ones on an EC unit is just like, oh, so you're just like advancing 2D6 and still charging me?
Yep.
Out.
I don't know what they're going to really do to fix Emperor's Children, because I think it's not going to be an army that settles like a B tier. Because once you hit Demon Princes and Exultants enough, what other data sheets are there in that army?
There's not a lot of, it gives me big Index T-Sons vibe, where it's just like, okay, these data sheets are crazy, and then the moment you hit them, the army just kind of like, man.
But they didn't hit them enough this time.
Yeah. So still S tier.
Still S tier. Still
great.
In my opinion, I think the best army in the game. It's just a hyper aggressive, fast army that puts the pressure on like nothing else. And it has some broken data sheets in there, and you can't stop them. You can't slow them down. You just have to kill them. And that can be tough. That can be really tough.
It can be really hard. Yeah, just good.
Yep.
Next up, I think we have Guard.
Astra Militarum.
It still was very good. Movie coming into this previous meta. Copped some pretty minor nerfs. I think this is still going to just be solidly in the A tier, right?
Yep, just a good army, has a lot of units, has some really good shooting. It went up and down a little bit. I don't think it functionally really changed its positioning at all.
I think Guard is basically the same army, honestly.
Yeah, it's got Dorns, it's got a lot of trash running around, it's got a lot of trash in Toroxes. So it has a solid shooting core and then a solid trash core. And I mean, that's a really good army.
Just a good recipe for like good plays Warhammer. Guard is the definition of like, it's very fair at the moment. I mean, the Casterkin bombs can feel a little unfair at times, but it's still just like a box that just like shoots you at the end of the day.
Yeah, it shoots and it runs things around to take and hold objectives and contest objectives and score secondaries. And then behind it, it got gun.
Yep.
And it's a good army. It's a really good army, actually, at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's very fair. What I like about Guard is I think it just like rewards like a really good skill palette, right? Because it doesn't do anything crazy, right? You just gotta like actually do the stuff, right?
Yeah. So Guard in A tier seems pretty reasonable. Solid, good army. Blood Angels, one of the biggest beneficiaries of this data slate.
Big winner.
Actually, big winner. They didn't change rules-wise much. Changed a little bit. Death Company now trigger their having OC and being able to fall back off of having any character within 6 inches, any Blood Angels character specifically, and then any chaplain within 12. And okay, that's pretty cool. It means that the Death Company characters actually got some life to them.
Yeah.
Because before, the Death Company captains were terrible. Right? You join a unit, it would still be OC 0, not able to fall back, which is very bad.
Oh, so the Death Company captain now gives the OC.
Yep. It's a Blood Angel character. So
Yeah,
now gives the ability to his own unit and any other Death Company unit within 6.
That's pretty good, actually.
And they're fairly cheap. They're like 70, 75 points. They full rerolls to hit. They give sustained hits to the squad. All the foot captain gives scout, I think. And then they explode on death when you kill them.
I was really quite shocked at how deep of a points cut this army got. Like, it was a deep points cut.
It was probably, if you lean into it, you can get up above 100 points.
Yeah.
Not a ton above 100. I think a list that I took that like leaned as hard into it as possible went down like 130 points.
Okay.
My Angelic Inheritors list, which I reconfigured to include units that I think are now more efficient given the changes.
Right.
And that went down 110, which is very good.
That's great, especially in a Marine army, right?
Yeah.
Because that's generally like a whole like real unit, not even like an extra trash unit.
Yes, or it's like 2 trash units become 2 real units, right? It's significant, it's noticeable. With the points increases that they took in the last Balance Dataslate, my LVO list I think has gone net down like 70 points, which is already a pretty good list. I think Blood Angels are very good right now.
Yeah, I think they're going to sit in A tier for now, and I think we have to kind of wait and see, right? It may be that the points cuts were a little too aggressive, so this army kind of takes over the game, but I think for now, it's safe to say that they're just a very good army.
Yeah, I think they're very good. I'd put them at top of A tier. I don't think that they're going to take over the game personally.
They're still Marines at the end of the day.
They're still Marines at the end of the day, and they gained 100 points, right? Same thing as like losing 100 points didn't knock EC out of S tier. I think gaining 100 points has made Blood Angels like very good, but it's not going to like break the game, I think. You get a lot more stuff in the list, but it's only like an extra unit.
Yeah, it's usually a combination of very good rules and very good points that kind of escalates you to the S tier, and I think Blood Angels are sitting in the very good points category and still just good rules.
Yeah, good rules.
Just not very good rules.
I'm of the opinion at this point that I think Liberators is a solid army if you don't expect your opponent to be able to interact back with you, because it's very good on your turn and very bad on your opponent's turn. And if your opponent can do something about that, then you're in trouble. Like I think Liberators gets rolled by EC because EC has all that fallback and charge, and so you can't really tie it up. Whereas Blood Angels has one place they can fall back and charge, and like the interrupt doesn't really hurt that bad for them because they're not +2 strength, +1 attack. And then like they have the fight first, but you can play around that. Like if your opponent interacts you on their turn, they're going to probably win. And if you interact with them on your turn, you're probably going to win. So it's who can get that big hit. I think Angelic Inheritors, in my opinion, is the biggest winner out of this, because I think you can solve one of the problems that AI had, which was good rules, good units, but you had a low number of them. And you can really help balance that out. And AI is an army similar to EC, where you are very resilient to your opponent messing with you on their turn. And then on your turn, you still hit really hard. Yeah. Because everything falls back and does everything at once. You're very mobile, and you get rerolls on your opponent's turn, so all your damage is still up when they hit you. You can still interrupt freely without having to worry that you're only strength 4, AP 1, damage 1, things like that. Sanguinary Guard coming down to 110 is a little crazy.
Yeah. I mean, do you think you're seeing 3 units of them now?
Yeah, I think so. I think 3/3-mans is going to be like in every...
Which I think is fine, right? I like when the thematic chapter gets its thematic unit, that it's actually good, right?
Yeah, I think AI, Jump Captain's coming down 10, and Sanguinary, and Dante, and then Sanguinary Guard coming down 20 means each of those packages, which were 3-mans plus a character, they were packages I thought were very good before, like very efficient, very good.
So they're minus 30 now.
They're each minus 30, and they're just now very good.
90 points just on 3 of those.
I think 120 would have been a fair cost for Sangard. I don't think 130 was right, but 110. The getting's good.
Gaming.
I'm saying.
I think we're pretty happy with that. So let's move on to Black Templars, an army that I think is very middle of the road, right? I don't think they're quite as good as maybe some of their other Space Marine competitors out there at the moment, but just a very fair, good army.
Yep. Black Templars are a very solid army, and I think they get passed over when people look at what you can do with various Space Marine chapters, because people look for the more flashy things. Like, why try to make Black Templar Gladius work when Ultramarines Gladius is right there, when Dark Angel Gladius was right there, right? When Blood Angel Liberators is right there, just to go look at. And I get that, but man, you can get some real power in the Black Templar Gladius.
Yeah. I really liked, what was that tank you used when we played the Valiant?
The Valiant with the extra multi-melta.
Yeah.
Very good. Same thing with Sword Brethren, man, did not go anywhere.
Sword Bros are still great.
Sword Bros, in my opinion, are like the best Gladius unit.
I think so too.
Because they hit absurdly hard with the Lance +1 AP.
And use the Fight on Death quite well as well.
They use the Fight on Death quite well because all of their rules trigger at the start of the fight phase or without a specific timing in the fight phase.
No charge requirements either. Right.
And go, just good. Go +1 damage. You can go finest hour, all of that. And then Fight on Death with full efficacy, which is actually pretty huge. I think Black Templars actually are a very solid army, and they get overlooked a lot. They also got some points drops. You know, like my Black Templar Gladius, I think, went down like 50 points. Something
it's actually
like
not
that.
bad.
It's not bad. Sword Brethren in 5-mans went down 10 points, and Sword Brethren in 10-mans went down 30 points, which is, listen, 27 points a model for Sword Brethren is kind of cracked.
That is kind of cracked. I've never seen a 10-man in my life, but maybe we will now.
You have seen them in the past. You might not have, but they have existed in the past.
Oh, okay.
The Hellbrick in Righteous Crusaders, you'd usually take them in Righteous Crusaders. The Hellbrick and then the Grimaldus Brick, each of those packages went down 40 points.
That's a lot.
And the Hellbrick is the single hardest hitting unit in the entire game. And it is 10 3-wound Marines with a 5-up field no pain and access to Armor of Contempt. And I'm not exaggerating when I say it's the single hardest hitting unit in the entire game.
Okay.
It went down 40 points.
Pretty good.
That's pretty solid. If you play Righteous Crusaders, you're going to be very happy with this. That being said, still think the army lands in B tier, but that's not like an indictment or anything. I would play it. Like, I just have like 17 armies.
Yeah, when I look at B tier, I look at armies that are very like middle of the road, quote unquote, but good / playable, right? Yeah. Like not an army that is bad by any means, maybe has like a few key weaknesses. Like I think Templar's weakness is like a unit count problem, not necessarily like anything else problem.
And you can get a solid amount of units in your army, especially like you just basically shuffle some points around, get like an extra squad of scouts or something in the army. Mm-hmm. if you take a Black Templar Gladius and go to an event, it's not holding you back in any way. It's like, it's a good army still.
Yep. Next up, Admech.
Pictured. Not a very good army.
Not a good army.
No, this one will unfortunately hold you back a little bit. I don't know what's up with Admech.
They just can't get it right.
They just can't figure it out.
Now, I did notably get the robot change. They get the detachment rule now.
That helps, I guess, but you're still probably going to take Skitarii Hunter cohort.
You're still not going to play robots.
No, you're still not going to play robots.
Yeah.
I mean, it has one use. Admech has one use. It is a decent to good team's army for blunting shooting armies, which is a lot less impactful now because, at least in NATC style layouts with GW terrain, oftentimes you're not using layout 5 turn the wrong way, which was a thing in the past. It's a little in the weeds, but you basically need something to blunt a shooting army.
And even then, Admech sometimes just died.
Sometimes.
The damage, right? Like sometimes you just drive straight through the Admech army.
Melee pressure is definitely a fan.
I love playing Admech with melee pressure.
Yeah.
Straight to D tier.
Yeah, it's not very.
It's just there's nothing going on.
Unfortunately. All right, Drukhari.
This is an army that I also do not respect.
Okay. Yeah, it's got some things going for it that are kind of cool. It's just a little underpowered.
Yeah, I think it is like just in waiting for a codex jail, right? Like it just needs to be.
Is it still an index?
Yeah, oh yeah. I actually don't even think Drukhari are on the roadmap yet. Yeah, like it's like
Sketchy.
it's like a giant question mark of like when they're gonna get anything.
That's unfortunate. So the cool things they actually have access to that you can make. Here's the thing. You can make any army work at a tournament. Like, actually, you can.
You can be better than your opponent.
That's what it would take.
100%.
These.
Yeah.
The cool things that they're working with are Court of the Archon is legitimately a pretty good unit.
Good unit.
Court of the Archon plus an Archon with a unit of Kabbalites to hold it together is a fight first unit that rerolls hits and wounds and has decent shooting as well. Lethal hits. It's a good unit. That is like actually a good unit. It's a unit I would take in other armies. Scourges, also pretty decent.
Just have a lot of failure points.
A lot of failure points,
right.
But at least the failure point isn't that, they get to stand, your opponent gets to shoot them back.
Yeah.
Right? Talos are a decent data sheet as well. And in Reaper's Wage, you get access to the worst LR units. But you can make those work, right? You can make those tools work for you. That being said, you're going to have to work harder than your opponent.
You have to work very hard.
Yeah. So
I just think it's in straight to D, right? Like I think to succeed with Drukhari, you just have to have such an enormous skill gap between you and your opponent.
Yeah, I don't know if you need an enormous skill gap, but you definitely have to have.
You have to be the better player in the game, right? I don't think Drukhari are doing anything for you where there's no like oopsie whoopsies, I made a mistake. You don't get like a safety net, right? You just have to play perfect, right?
Your units are fragile.
Yeah, super squishy. They do hit very hard, right? They're really lacking some sort of like internal support system, right? It feels like a house of cards that's a very flimsy house.
They also have failure points, as you were talking about, and they're big ones too. Like one minor one is Scourges can hop out and then not have anything to shoot at if the first Scourge unit pops off. Mm-hmm. But if you only hop one Scourge unit out to shoot, then maybe you don't kill the thing you're shooting at. It can cause real problems in a trading game. The second and more important thing is if they have a downturn, if they swing bad on their go turn, they
die.
They don't, but also they don't have pain tokens going forward.
Yeah.
Right? If you're like, all right, shooting phase, I'm going to use all my pain tokens and I empower my army to shoot, and I didn't kill the things I needed to kill. Not only did you not kill them, but you don't get any pain tokens for your fight phase. Mm. And so then you don't kill anything there either. And then you don't have any pain tokens forever because your opponent destroyed you.
Yeah. I think it's important to highlight, even though this army going in D tier, you obviously see people succeed like Skari, right?
Yep.
Like
Skari,
the army.
Cody
right.
Giroux, I was just at a team event with.
Right. That's right. Excellent Drukhari player.
Yeah.
Like you can just win.
You can still win. Absolutely. Yeah. You can still win good too.
I just think they do it because they are just significantly better than their opponents.
That could work.
Yeah.
All right. Agents of the Imperium. We're really getting the stinkers out of the way.
We really are. D tier.
D tier. They are the worst army in the game. 4 of their 5 detachments are not real. I read them recently because I'm planning, as of time of recording, to take it to a local like funsy 3-man team event.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, no.
How many points do you think you're gonna get? Call your shot right now. Right here. Look in the camera, dead on.
Points?
Yeah. How many points are you getting?
In 3 rounds, 20-0, I think I'm going to get out of 60. I'd say I'm going to get 40.
Okay.
45.
All right.
I'll say 45.
We'll check back in on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
45. All right. So agents, 4 of their 5 detachments are just straight up not real. Like, I read through them. They're not good, right? They don't do things, or they benefit like Ordo Hereticus models and Inquisitor models. And it's like, okay, what are we doing, man? Yeah. Like, what's going on here?
They clearly wanted to like update a lot of the data sheets. They just threw them in a book.
Yeah.
And the army was just kind of like the...
So it's functionally an index because you have 1 detachment. You have Imperialis Fleet, which is a solid detachment, and you have some solid units in there. As I said, I deep dove this like literally yesterday.
Yeah.
The kill team is just as good as it is in Deathwatch, where it is pretty good. In fact, you could argue that it's better because you get access to better damaging strats in melee, as opposed to just shooting, where the regular kill team is not particularly good in shooting. It has like 2 frag cannons and whatever. You get better damage output in combat because you can activate Lance, sustained hits. You can give them +1 to hit from the army rule. You get reroll 1s. So you get a good melee package that goes quite quickly and can fall back and shoot and charge. Oh, okay, dope. You then have breachers that get full reroll to wounds against objectives, and you can give them a variety of buffs as well and attach characters like Draxus to do your work. That's all well and all good. But here's the problem. You have a surplus of toughness 3 morons who are good at killing other infantry.
It's an army of cultists.
It's an army of cultists plus, right? You have subductors that are tough to remove. The army's annoying to deal with, right? And you're good at killing infantry. But when something gets tough enough that it is a vehicle, you better hope you brought a big unit of Deathwatch.
Yeah, this army walks into Knights and it's just like,
oops.
Oh.
Like, legitimately, the current list I have has 30 Deathwatch veterans with 3 Watchmasters because it's like, I have to be able to kill something, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And they do, but slowly. Yeah. Because you have to pick one thing at a time to be +1 to hit, and one thing gets a strat that makes them better in combat, and like, figure that out. Yeah, it's not a well-rounded army. It's not. It is fun, though. It's cool in a way that AdMech, in my eyes,
aesthetically and thematically love them. They just don't do anything.
There's a reason why there's joke characters in fighting games. It's because sometimes you just want to take the joke character.
Sometimes you just want to have fun.
Yeah.
And that's what you play Imperial Agents for.
That's what you do is have fun.
You just want to have fun.
Listen, it's a cool army. It just needs something, man. Mm-hmm. It needs 5 real detachments. I don't know. Something.
It needs a lot.
It's not good. It's the worst army in the game. So next up, Grey Knights.
Yeah, this is an army that really kind of disappeared after the last data slate. I kind of saw them a bunch when Warpbane Task Force first came out, right? And then they copped the nerf where you can't reroll all your hits unless you're visible to the targets. This was a very specific Purgator nerf. And ever since then, they've just kind of poofed.
Yeah, you really haven't seen them very much. I mean, there's a lot of people that are in Codex waiting room, which
GK
includes me.
Yeah.
They got very minor buffs, right? It feels tailored to me specifically, like they wrote the buffs for me.
You're a Termy man.
Nobody else, as far as I know, runs big 10-man Terminator bricks in multiples. Yeah. And that's the only thing that went down is 10-man Terminators and 10-man Paladins. They came down to match the points per model of the 5-mans. You can make an okay list. In fact, if I were to run Grey Knights right now, it would involve 30 to 40 Terminators because you can actually now fit 40, which is a huge change, with characters. And that'd be about that. That being said, the army has some issues. The game-wide 3-inch deep strike to 6-inch deep strike was like the
huge
death knell of that army archetype because you have to be able to deep strike behind people and pull them apart. That army did not play like 30 Terminators you expect, right? 30 Terminators you expect is like, here you go, here's 30 Terminators. But it would teleport around, it would score a bunch of secondaries, it would play like this really weird game where you just refuse to interact with your opponent until you all of a sudden were like, yeah, now I'm 30 Terminators.
Hit the gas.
And you can't really do that with a 6-inch deep strike. You know the 3, can't really do it with a 6. So, yeah, I don't know. The army's like, it's.
I think it's still fine, like from a you can play the game with this army perspective, but I wouldn't say it's good, right? But it's also not garbage. I think it's like very C tier. Like, I think you can still play this army. I think you could do decent with it, like if you're a very good GK pilot. But I wouldn't expect it to be in like a lot of like team compositions, or I wouldn't expect to see it at the top of like a lot of singles events or anything like that, right?
Yeah, we're also in the meta of melee pressure. That's a bad time to be.
They don't like it. Yeah, they really don't like it.
No, because you need to avoid confrontation to a certain extent. You need to be able to teleport around and whatnot.
And as a melee player, you may be like, oh, but Mist of Deimos. They can Mist of Deimos in one place.
Also, once they missed, they never get back to any objectives, which is the real problem.
Yeah, just go get them.
Once you shove them past the center objectives, they have to fight to even get back to them, and they usually don't. So I think they're in some trouble right now, but they're in Codex waiting room, so we'll check back in and see where they're
at. I think the army's going to get probably a pretty significant redesign, if I had to guess. Like, I think like if we look at what they did with T-Suns, another psychic army, where they really kind of injected a lot of psychic flavor, I'm really hoping we see something similar for GK.
Yeah, right? I'm super looking forward to that because I love my Grey Knights, but right now ain't it, Chief. All right, Imperial Knights, though.
Yeah, Imperial Knights are an interesting army right now because they're performing quite well on the scene, right?
Yeah.
Like, they've had good tournament results. A lot of, like, team compositions are bringing IK. Just good, right? Maybe you have a little more experience. I play Orks, right? So I just kill them. So I just, like...
That was my experience with World
I just drive straight through that army.
Yeah, World Eaters, I had the same thing where I just hit it with, like... 5 units all at once, and they could deal with one of them, and then I hit them again with 5 more units. And okay. I think Imperial Knights are a pretty good teams army because you can overwhelm some people with what you can do.
I think so too. And there's also like the double Knights composition sometimes, right? Where you bring like a bunch of CK dogs, and then you also bring the IK, and then you're just like bam, bam, 1-2 punch, right?
Yeah, not into Orcs though.
Not
World Eaters, but into other stuff. I mean, listen, 12 Armigers and a Gallant, or 11 Armigers and Canis hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's really just quite good. I would probably put this army in A tier, honestly. I don't think there's any like pizzazz here. I think it's just good.
It's done really well. If you can't handle it, you're dead. If you accidentally lose your Warlord too early because you just didn't check, like you didn't take pains to put which one of your characters was your Warlord, you just hit a Vox on one of them, and I guess you got to use that one. Now it's dead. Now they all have a 5 of Feel No Pain. They're all on all the objectives. You can just die, and they've done pretty well recently.
Yeah, that's like the big thing pushing them to A tier for me is I'm just like being objective and looking at the tournament results for this army, and they're just good. Right?
They're just good.
Yeah.
What I will say is if you are planning to go to tournaments, be very careful of who's your Warlord. Yeah. Make it somebody who stays in the back the entire game and never has to come out, or someone who can be your second or third wave of attacks rather than someone who has to lead the charge. Because even if it's like your super cool character who will mess up Knights 12 ways till Sunday, if you have to use them early
and you give the whole army a 5 of Philippine, your matchup just got significantly harder.
You probably lost,
right?
I think is the way to look at it. You probably just lost. So very good army right
now. Next up we have Deathwatch. This is an army that kind of sneaks around on the fringes of the meta, I would say. It's certainly not popular.
I don't know why,
but it like exists, right?
It is very, very good.
Yeah.
It is a very good Marine army. I mean, the Indomitor Kill Team is a collection of the most heinous data sheets you can...
Yeah, it actually is. It's kind of annoying. Yeah. Like, it's just a pile of way too many wounds with an odd amount of, like, good damage and then chart... And it's T6, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, big time. Yeah.
It's just, like, the most annoying unit.
Dude, anytime someone's like, yeah, it's like a heavy bolter. And I'm like, oh, what are the stats? And they're like, 3 shots. And if you're the closest eligible target, it's 7-2-3 the sustained lethal. And I'm like, what do you mean it's a heavy bolter? Get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
Right? You can...
It's a death bolter.
It is. They just have like strength 6 flamers on their guys, like +2 strength if you're the closest eligible target. Matters a lot for twin linked flamers and meltas and the weird ass heavy bolters that can pop off. So the Indomitor Kill Teams are really good. The Deathwatch veterans are same as I was talking about them in Imperial Agents. You get them in like a real army this time. And they're also really good. Advanced fallback, shoot, and charge on a unit that has a bunch of thunder hammers and power weapons and a Watchmaster. Very good at that. And it's a teleporting shooting army. And teleporting shooting armies are just really...
Yeah, I think Deathwatch play the long game possibly the best in the game, right? Yep. Like, they have a very, very good way to, like, slowly rip you apart. And then they're all in turn after that is really quite good, right? Yeah. It's honestly like almost...
fragile.
Yeah, especially, they're not squishy by any means. It reminds me kind of like what GK wanted to be, almost. Like, teleport around, actually shoot you really hard, and then kind of push into you, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Terminators also, I didn't even mention those.
Yes, the Terminators. Oh my goodness, those little missiles.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
They're great. And then they have 3 different strats for buffing their shooting, as well as being able to get 2 different free strats, because the captain
the Watchmaster
and the Watchmaster are worded differently. They are worded the same in Imperial Agents, so you can't captain ally in a unit and have double free strat.
Yeah, but on the Index.
But in the Index, they're worded differently, so you can do both free strats. They have some truly great stratagems for increasing damage.
Yeah.
And they can spam out multiples of them. And so, you run into the standard list, which is like 20 Indomitor Kill Team models, 15 Terminators, 10 Deathwatch veterans, and some trash. It's a really good list.
Yeah, I think it's just good. Where do you think they'd land though? They kind of fit into an awkward place for me.
I would feel strange putting a high power teleport shooting army anywhere outside of A tier, honestly.
Yeah, I think I could agree with that evaluation, right? The more we talk about it, the more I'm convinced that this is like, I mean, they're also just like 1 LVO and then haven't been nerfed since then, right? Like,
No.
Yeah.
Not functionally, no. It's a really good army. It blasts you, it teleports, and it's tough.
Yeah, I think it's just really good.
Yeah. And I really don't know why it's not more popular. Like, actually,
Yeah,
don't know.
I think it's just because it's weird, right? Like, I think it's just one of those armies that's just like a little weird, so it's not very popular. Because building the models is actually kind of annoying, right? Like building all the kill teams with all the actual weapons and all that stuff, which a lot of people do care about, right? So it's kind of hard to get into at the same time. So I think it's just weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's neat though. I kind of want to play
I agree.
a little bit, just a little place, just for me. All right, Death Guard. You are a Death Guard boy. You're the stinkiest lad. What are you thinking on the new book?
Yeah, so I think the book is really quite strong. The other thing to note is it has multiple really good builds, right? Like there's Plague Marine builds that are really doing quite good. There's the, here's like all my 90-point vehicles that is like super obnoxious, right?
Yeah.
Which is also playable in multiple detachments. You have the PBC Mortarian's Hammer or Anvil build, whatever it's called.
I think it's Mortarian's Hammer, but regardless.
Whatever the tank detachment is, right?
Yeah.
You can with the triple PBC. It has a lot of really good stuff going on here. I think this is a pretty good slot into the S tier for me. I think you're going to see this in many team compositions. I think you're going to see this at every GT you go to, and it's also winning immense.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's too cheap at the moment. Is the actual problem? I think the data sheets are legitimately mostly fine. It's just you can fit like 12 hulls or something, if not more.
And it takes up like 1,200 points.
Yeah.
It's not crazy.
Like you can bring 9 vehicles at 90 to 100 points each, right? Like that's so cheap. Like it's just so cheap. And they do good damage and they're very small profile, have good OC, good toughness. This army's just good. It's just good.
It's just good. It's tough to chew through quickly. It does a lot of damage. It debuffs you on the way out. It has multiple ways to access full rolls to hit and wound. It has 6-inch deep strikes. It has, Death Shroud, which are a very hard hitting profile. Mm-hmm. And it also has some serious tournament results behind it, even just in the first couple weeks after it drops. So have a hard time putting anywhere outside S tier without some like points increases, which they did not get in this balance slate.
I would agree.
Next up is World Eaters. It came out the same time as Death Guard. Mm-hmm. And I have some controversial opinions on World Eaters.
Yeah, this is your pet project right now.
This is my pet project. Yeah. I've been playing exclusively this. I played 2 events in the last 2 weekends just with World Eaters. And I've been workshopping the list and I've been playing it a bunch. And I'm gonna be honest, I think this army is really good. Mm-hmm. Like, I actually think World Eaters are really, really good with their current codex for a number of reasons. One, the army hits unbelievably hard.
I can see that.
Right, you can just get lethal sustained hits up on your entire army, and then you have a variety of profiles or dev wounds against infantry if that's what you need.
Right.
So if you need to kill vehicles, lethal sustained. If you need to kill infantry, sustained dev. It's a hell of an army roll to have. A lot of the units move faster than they did before, so you need, your advance in charge less than you needed it before.
Right.
Because, your berserkers move 8 and then can still advance in charge for a CP in Berserker Warband. Or you have Scarbrand, who advances and charges in Khorne Demonkin. Or you have the Blood Crushers that move through walls in Khorne Demonkin. Or you have Spawn that moves Scout 8, move 10, advance and charge.
Dude, the World Eaters Chaos Spawn is
5.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah, so the army, I played Berserker Warband this last weekend. And I played Khorne Demonkin the weekend before. Mm-hmm. Khorne Demonkin definitely plays a more well-rounded game plan where you can go aggressive when you need to, but you can't reach out as far to hit your opponent, which is fine. It's not really what you wanted to do regardless in the index. And And it also has some really, really, like the Bloodletter strat is just next level.
Yeah, that strat is crazy, right?
It's crazy. There's no restrictions.
Every time I read it, I'm just like, surely there's some kind of restriction here, right? Like
Dude,
something you can't.
It's the permit from Parks and Rec. I hold the strat up to my opponent and I'm like, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, genuinely might be one of the best strats in the game.
Yeah, for sure. So that's pretty crazy. In Khorne Demonkin, you get access to some very good profiles in Scarbrand and the Blood Crusher unit and whatnot in there. In Berserker Warband, the army is still lightning fast, right? I did no trouble getting to my opponent, even in their deployment zone. That was not an issue. Khorne Berserkers move, up to 17 inches out of a rhino and charge you. They're a billion attacks now. They can get dev wounds and +1 AP, stuff they did not have before. You can carve through elite infantry, which was our hardest matchup in the past, was elite tough infantry. Carve through those like they're not even there. Deathwing Knights, never heard of them. You can kill that stuff. So that's very helpful. Spawn are insanely fast. And then the rest of the army only moves 10 and charges. That's very good. And the army, as I said, hits like a freight train. Lightning quick. And then you also have access to good shooting. Forge Fiends are a huge boon to the army.
Huge boost. Huge boost. Being able to have a melee army that also has at least a gun is a big deal, right?
Yep.
Like, for instance, like when Orks had Badrook back in the day, that was a huge deal because they had a gun, right?
Yep.
Like, just having a gun for any melee army that is reliable.
Has to respect.
Yeah, like, is a big deal.
Yes. So the fact that you now have shooting that can really crack your opponent if they're not minding their P's and Q's is huge. The fact that you're still very fast in Berserker Warband and hit very hard is also huge. To the point where I think the army's just better than it was in the Index. I played the Index a ton.
Oh, wow.
I have now played the Codex a ton, and I think it is better now.
Wow, that's a big opinion.
Legitimately. My checks in the mail from Big GW. But no, I played World Eaters a ton before and after the Codex, and I feel like this is just a better game plan than it was in the past.
All right.
In the past, you had to compensate for being a mono melee army. You had to compensate for a variety of things. You didn't have a lot of models. Now, your army can still be a little expensive. Something I completely forgot to mention is you now have access to a really good, tough lone op who can tilt matchups in your favor.
That is true.
The Demon Prince on foot is bananas.
Yeah.
The Demon Prince with Blade of Endless Bloodshed, pretty good in Khorne Demonkin. The Demon Prince with Helmet Brazen for -1 damage is ludicrous. And the reason it's ludicrous, and it wasn't in the past when it was half damage in the Index, is because he's a lone op now. I don't care if it's -12 damage to a minimum of 1. If you're not a lone op, you're going to die. Your opponent just gets
it's going to die the moment they want to anyway, right? Like, yeah, I really like this lone op change on the Foot Demon Princes. It makes them so much more viable, right? Because it's hard to be a slow monster that just kind of falls over. But now you're a slow monster that like actually gets delivered, right?
Yep. And you now have CP economy in World Eaters where you didn't before. Free strats, and the Mo gets you a CP if it kills a character, which actually has been helpful a couple times. That's all huge. And the fact I can just take a big beefy lone op, plunk it on the center objective, put Forge Fiends behind it, and say, walk into my threat, walk into my shooting, walk into my charges, to try and deal with my Demon Prince, who isn't even going to die because he's -1 damage, and in combat I can make him -2 damage in Berserker Warband, right? Like, my opponent rocked up to me with Deathwatch with heavy Thunderhammers. They're damage 3, and I made them damage 1, and I took 4 damage. And then I clocked the unit in response, because every unit in this army has an insane number of attacks.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. No, it was great.
What are you thinking then?
I think they're an A tier,
Okay.
solidly.
I'll believe you.
Here. I think people gave them massively short shrift, which is what I did to EC as well, and what I did to the Codex when I first saw it, but I think it's really quite good. I know that Brian Doherty has, I think he got 3rd at the most recent GW event, also with World Eaters. It's got some sauce in there. It's a very good army if you believe in it and want to try to play it and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it sounds like an army that's going to really reward knowledge, right? And like figuring out how to play each matchup. And then it's just good from there, right?
Also absurd in teams because it pushes differential, man. It pushes differential.
Yeah. You've certainly proven that part.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to put it right about there.
Okay, I think it sounds reasonable.
In A tier.
Next up, we have Tau. Very significant change for this army in the data slate, right? So it's, I believe you guide 1 time and then your whole army gets the buff against that target, right?
Yes.
So this is big deal for them, I would think. It changes the economy of like how the whole shooting activation really works, right? I think it's difficult to evaluate whether it's enough or not without like a lot of data going into it. But my overall impression is that the army is going to get quite a bit better. I just don't know how much quite a bit better.
That is very fair. I mean, I will say the lack of the split fire penalty now means that there's you don't get punished by your army mechanic as much as you used to, which is super cool. And they changed some of the enhancements and stuff around. They changed the Kauyon detachment rule, so now it's sustain 1 but also ignore mods, which is interesting. But I think Motka is the way to go.
Yeah.
It seems very interesting. It is a cool change, and I think it lands them basically like middle of the pack. Pending review.
I think that's so too. I think this is an army I feel comfortable putting in the middle of the pack, but we're just going to have to wait and see because this is a pretty significant change to an army, right? Good old Space Marines.
Good old Space Marines. They took the heftiest rules nerf.
Specifically the Ultramarines build, right?
Specifically the Ultramarines.
Yeah, they kind of got thunderhammered.
I mean, they're down 10 CP a game.
Yeah.
It's sizable.
Yeah, so this army went from being like really quite exceptional to down 10 CP a game, which is a really big deal. I think this is going to push them down quite a bit, right?
I think I would be more inclined to play a Black Templar Gladius than an Ultramarines Gladius at the moment.
Yeah, I think the Ultramarines isn't the default take anymore, right? I want to say this is going to push them to middle of the road. I'm not even convinced they're A tier anymore.
No, I don't think so.
Because I honestly,
solid.
I think Marines had some specific weaknesses, like the Ultramarine build had some pretty specific weaknesses already, right? That they struggled with sometimes, and now that they've lost like the giant CP economy and then picked up a pretty minor amount of points, I just don't think it's going to be enough, right?
No, I think their whole bag, right, is that they get double oath if you include Guilliman. They get double oath, and they get double +1 oath. Mm-hmm. And that's it, right? Whereas in Black Templar Gladius, you just get better units.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So, and that's what we're evaluating against is like Black Templars or Dark Angels. Based off where those are, I honestly, I don't know if I would actually play Ultramarines Gladius. Like, it's good. Yeah. It's good because Marines Gladius is a good army. There's no archetype of Marine Gladius that is a bad army.
Yeah, I don't know if like Ultramarines are gonna like rise up from the grave and be like, our dash, they're still great, but like, I'm not seeing it.
They're good. Calgar's a hell of a character, but
yeah, I think it's just gonna hold hands with Black Templars and a very middle of the road faction now. It's just fine.
Yeah, and fine is where it should be. As I said, Marine Gladius is a good army. Mm-hmm. It is a good army no matter what you put it in. If you put in Blood Angels, it's good. If you put in Dark Angels, it's good. If you put in Templars, it's good. If you put in Ultramarines, it's good. If you put in Space Wolves, it's good. So I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not. What is happening across the table from you when they had 30 CP a game? Yeah, and you have 10.
Like being able to use whatever strat you want like all the time was a bit annoying.
They always cycled a card every turn. There's no reason not to, right? Like now they have a normal CP economy and they have to play the game normally, and that puts them middle of the pack.
Yep, just fair. Okay, next up we have Dark Angels. The Lion notably received some changes.
Sure. Yeah, he still is probably not.
I don't think it matters that much.
I don't think it matters that much. He just doesn't play 40k very well. He's a very expensive unit that wants to be on the front lines without enough durability to keep him safe once he's there.
Yep.
And he doesn't do anything while he's waiting to go.
I think he is chilling. I think this army is just very middle of the road, just with the Black Templars and generic Space Marines.
Yep.
Right. Just fair. Does good stuff. Got some minor upgrades here, but
yeah, your decisions are basically going to come down to: do I want Deathwing Knights with Azrael?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want Sword Brethren with better gladiators?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I want +1 and double oath?
Right. Again,
I can't really come to a conclusion between all of that. So
yeah, it's going to take some digging.
They're all just going to be together in there. Azrael's still a hell of a character. Deathwing Knights are still a hell of a data sheet.
Yeah, data sheets are still just good. Yeah. I just think they're not as cheap as inefficient as they used to be, right? So that's a big difference, right?
I personally, given how I like to play the game, would probably pick Black Templar Gladius because it's more fast, more aggressive. Dark Angel Gladius is more like probably middle of the road between defensive and aggressive. Yep. And the Ultramarines one is very like, pick two things, they die. Pick two things, they die.
Yeah, I like that we're kind of getting into you pick a play style, right? And then that's kind of the kind of Marines you play, right? Which is cool. That's cool. That's how it should be. So next up we have Tyranids here. This is an army that has been performing okay. You still see him pop up every now and then. You see the triple Norn build, I think, the most at the moment. However, I think John still kind of favors like a generic invasion fleet good stuff build, right?
Yeah. You don't see it a hell of a lot in the wild.
No, Tyranids are definitely pretty niche. There's like the Monster Mash build that you see every now and then. There's the triple Norn build, which is different than the Monster Mash build, notably. I think they're just fine. Like, I think Tyranids are just kind of in their own lane, doing their own thing, and they have some good matchups, some bad matchups, and they just generically play the game well, right? Because they score points very well. They can play primary quite well.
Yes. That's all very important.
And they stat check to a degree, right?
They can. I will say Crusher's rules are kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
Like the actual rules itself, but taking a lot of big monsters can overwhelm people, especially if they tend to, occasionally you run into like Haywire or something that's good into vehicles and not into monsters. Very rarely does it go the opposite way. Even so, I have trouble believing that these are some tier A nids in here.
Yeah, I think they're just middle of the road, right? I think they're another just very fair army that plays the game well, but they're not just going to crush you because they're Tyranids, right?
Yep. They are good if you play well, and they are bad if you play poorly. If you play poorly, they're not going to like cover for you.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which some of the tier A armies like will.
Yeah, I would agree there.
All right, Sisters got a pretty massive change.
Yeah,
they had a lot of points drops, and the Champions of Faith detachment has changed, so you just pick 3. You don't consume 3 miracle dice every time you activate, and that is massive for how good that army is.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Sisters got some pretty significant changes here. This was already an army that was kind of creeping around, right? Like, okay, not good-ish, but like was around, and now I think it got some pretty significant playable changes. I'm not sure where they land, though. They feel like somewhere between A and B to me, right?
Yeah, kind of like a B.5.
Like a B.5, right? Like, I think they have the potential to be really quite strong. They're definitely not like S tier or anything like that. But they're also like better than a lot of the B tier armies, I would say.
They also got faction abandoned like I've never seen.
That is true. They got big faction abandoned, right?
There was a lot of people who picked up, Bringers of Flame and played it a bunch. And then it got nerfed and people just dropped it like a rock.
Yeah.
And some of that was because the army was not that great after it got hit by two points changes and 2 rules nerfs and whatnot. And part of it was because people moved on to greener pastures. Like, I don't think the army is like the whatever 24% win rate it had or whatever beforehand. I really don't think it was. Like, I played Nick Quinton playing, Champions of Faith, and it's an army that really benefits like some of these other ones, like Tyranids, like Agents, like some of the really intricate armies. It benefits from someone who really knows the combo.
I agree.
And really loves the army. Someone like, Jeffrey Kolodner or, Scott Ketchum or Quinton, right? And they're still playing them. They're still playing Sisters, and they're still doing well with them. So I don't believe that the army was as bad as the results it put up.
I think so too.
But it got buffed in a significant way. So I'd probably put it, towards the top of B, you're thinking?
I think top of B is correct. However, in retrospect, we may look at this back and say it was actually A tier, right? We just kind of have to figure out where it's going to land.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to say that it's in A tier without seeing some results first.
Yeah, I think so too. It's very easy to get very excited about some very good changes and be like, oh my God, the meta's broken. And then it's just fine.
It's fine.
Right? Like, how many demons changes have come out and we've read and been like,
wow, that's crazy, dog.
Yeah.
And then, oh, it's not spoiled demons. Space Wolves.
Space Wolves.
A wolfy boy.
I am. I've been really enjoying this so far. I think this army's really quite good. Honestly, I think they're in the Blood Angels category of Space Marines. I think there's a lot of very interesting things you can do. There's notably 2 distinct builds you can do at this point, right? There's the 18 Thunderwolf Cav, like Stormlance build with some amount of like Wolfen and just fast guys that are going to go punch you. And then there is the Gladius 3x3 Thunderwolf Cav and like 3x5 Wolfen and some amount of Head Takers and some amount of Terminators and just like a very good push army. And Predators. Predators are good.
This is one of the more index feeling Marine chapters.
Very index feeling. I would agree. Their Space Wolf detachment themselves, unfortunately, are just not very competitive. Regardless, Saga the Bold is the closest, but it's still not enough. Like Gladius and Stormlance are just better.
I mean, they're both incredible to tackle.
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously competing with some very good stuff, right? So I honestly think Space Wolves are going to land in A tier. The amount of just like T6, 4-up invuln, 3 damage dudes you can kind of put into an army is a lot here, right? Like a lot.
Yeah, you get a good amount of stuff.
Yeah, like you get a good amount of stuff that hits pretty good. You have a little bit of a strength problem sometimes, right? But you have the Lance strat, which can be okay, right? And then if you bring enough Predators, you can just...
What strength do you get up to?
So it's generally 5.
Oh, that is...
It's generally 5.
I was like, wow, World Eaters can have a bit of a strength problem in that every attack is like strength 10.
No, the Space Wolves are mostly strength 5.
But...
You have the Wolf Priest for +1 to wound, or like your battle leaders can get a little stronger with Honor Vehement, and then like the Terminators, like the Sergeant is a bit stronger, and your characters can be a bit better, and like your Wolf Runner anti-monster, anti-vehicle 3-up, but still only strength 5, so like hitting into a Terminator is like kind of awkward despite being 3 damage, right? So yeah, I think there's just like a really good stats build here that runs fast and punches good and plays the game quite well. I've been very happy with the games I've been playing kind of on my own time with this army. So I think they're going to live in A tier, honestly.
Right.
I think they're in Blood Angels tier.
Yeah, they're like buddies with World Eaters, basically.
Yeah.
And by strength problem, I mean, with World Eaters, I mean, toughness 11, toughness 12 can cause issues, not like strength 10 is a bad profile.
Yeah, I think Space Wolves have some clear weaknesses, but they have outs into most games, and they also just score well. Play the game well. Just good.
Chaos Demons, largely Shadow Legion, but some of the Index as well.
Yeah, mostly Shadow Legion. I'm personally a big fan of Shadow Legion. I think Shadow Legion is actually pretty good. It has the clearly defined weakness of getting punched in the face, but that's demons as an army, so that's not Shadow Legion's fault.
That's not Shadow Legion's fault, but it definitely doesn't help. There's a lot of very good pressure armies right now.
A lot of very good pressure armies. Demons are weird because I personally don't have a very great opinion of the army. And then statistically, it always does well somehow anyway. But I also play a lot of very high damage armies. So armies like Demons to me are just like, die.
Yeah, get in there with whatever melee list, could put them in a corner and then punch them until they eventually fall over.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I think they're very middle of the road. I think they're very B tier. I think
where'd you put them in B tier?
I think high B tier.
Mid Gladius, or
I actually would put them above Gladius. I put them above Tau as well. I think Shadow Legion is a strong list, but has a very defined weakness.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think it's a wall that's very difficult to overcome, even through a skill gap, right?
Yeah, because you just kind of have some data sheets, and they just kind of do their data sheety things.
Yeah, I agree.
That's basically that. Like even with Faithers is like.
Good.
Nuts.
That's good.
The scouting of Leaping Shadows, ACDC brick, also pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, even so.
Supported by a very flimsy house of cards.
Yeah. All right, GSC, an army that I don't understand whenever it doesn't do well.
Yeah, this army's just good.
It's just good. It has a lot of units.
Just good.
They come back. It has various playstyles that are all nonsense in their own unique ways. Biosanctics just hits you from reserves from every angle.
Mm-hmm.
Host of Ascension is just nonsense personified.
Yep.
What do you mean you have a 20-man squad that has lethal sustain 5s, full rerolls to hit that just rapid it in, Overwatch by Bloodthirst to death, and then on my turn your turn killed Scarbrand or whatever.
It's messed up.
Killed Bellicor. Yeah, it's pretty nonsense. You still get a lot of stuff. If you can't handle a 20-man that jumps away when you shoot at it, you're gonna have a really bad time. And it can pick angles and score really well. And then finally, there's Final Day, which just scores every single point on the board and then throws gargoyles on your objective over and over and over again in a very boring 11-9 victory for the GSC.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why Nick loves the army, but he does. I don't know. I don't know how... you need to score more points than your opponent to win a game of 40k, and I don't know how you do that against GSC.
Yeah, I think GSC are a very solid A tier army. Good damage, good mission play.
Yep, just like right in there.
Yep,
right in A tier. All right, CSM, Chaos Spez Marines.
Yeah, this is an army that actually ended up picking up quite a few changes. I think overall net good changes. The Disco Lord is quite good now.
He's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Hits like a freight train.
Hits like a freight train, has a good mortal wound ability, is like reasonably tough, right?
Yep.
I'm a big fan of what this model is going to do. I'm curious to kind of see how he finds his way into lists, which is fine because it's like the coolest CSM model ever, right? Like
It's a dude riding a mecha spider crab.
Yeah.
Just running at you.
it's so cool. I'm very excited to see the Discolored back.
Yep.
And then
Vastor.
oh yeah, go ahead, Vashtor.
Vastor gained Lone Op if he's within 3 inches of a demon engine. He gained +1 strength on his aura for demon engines. So now there's 2 strength. So you're shooting with strength 12 Forge Fiends. And that's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
Things like that. And then his melee weapon picked up a bunch of rules, things like dev wounds and whatnot on it. So Vastor stonks up.
Another sick model, so I'm glad he's better.
And then the base Demon Prince on foot picked up the same Lone Op rule that the Death Guard and the World Eaters one has.
Yeah, very happy they're going back and changing that to go in line with everyone else because I think the Lone Op is a big reason they're viable now.
It is. It's a huge reason they're viable. You just take that dude, plunk him on the center with some kind of enhancement and watch your opponent turn themselves inside out trying to figure it out.
Yeah, so I think CSM are a king of the previous meta. I think they will be a king of the new meta. I think they're a very solid A-tier army. I think they're going to stay very good. And I mean, it was a good army that only got better, right? So
yeah, CSM stay winning.
yeah, I think they may be like pushing for S-tier in the future. We'll kind of see.
We'll have to check back.
Yeah, we'll have to check back in.
Top of A are some very good armies.
Next up, we have Leagues of Votann. This is an army that performs obviously great in Germany. Now, if anyone else can figure out
What's going on?
how to do that, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
So they're kind of a weird army to evaluate, right?
They got stats. That's what they got. They got stats.
They got stats.
And then they can go +1 to hit and wound against things. And if your opponent needs those things, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. It's just middle of the road. Like they don't ever like blow out your opponent unless I feel like your opponent makes a mistake and then they capitalize on that really quite well.
But same in reverse, right? They don't, it's tough to blow them out.
Yeah.
Because they just have a lot of stuff that's kind of tough. And
a lot of stuff, actually.
They point a bunch of guns at the center and say, watch it, Bucky.
Yeah. And the casino cannons, right? Sometimes they're just casino cannons.
Yep.
So
sometimes you fire 2 shots and get 8 hits and you're like,
that's pretty good.
Or more to the point, like sometimes you fire 2 shots and just get 5 hits. And that's not crazy. You just hit, roll 6, into a 3 on the D3.
Yeah.
And they're activating like 5 of those a turn or whatever.
Yeah, it's really not that insane. I mean, that's like 1 in 6 by 1 in 3. So it's like 1 in 18 scenarios.
But
right?
on 2 dice.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
crazy.
2 dice. Yeah, it's better
Yeah.
odds. Yeah.
So, and then all of a sudden +1 to wound means you wound on 2s and it's AP3 and you're like, oh, I'm dead now.
I died.
That's
whoopsies. Yeah.
So they seem like a solid army.
I think it feels another B.5.
It
right?
does. I honestly think we're underrating just the random Gladiuses right now.
You think so?
Yeah, think about how good just like a random Dark Angel Gladius or just Marine.
Well, it's better than Tau, right?
Yeah.
They're better than they're probably better than Shadow Legion.
I think they are better than Shadow Legion.
So you think Gladius is like top? The Gladius builds are top of B then?
I would probably say Gladius.
Okay, then let's move them over.
I think the Gladius builds are like the definition of like the midpoint of the meta.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Votann are like holding hands with them.
Yeah.
Beep. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Necrons. Picked up points buffs.
They slightly. Like Richard's list went down 30 points.
I'm still upset about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not enough to like make a big difference, but it's definitely enough to stick a big middle finger up at me.
Yeah. This army is really good. Has been very good.
Yeah.
I don't quite know why they went down. I was expecting maybe points nerfs. So this is an army that showed up everywhere all the time, and it will continue to show up everywhere all the time.
It's just really good, man. Why Necrons? Why do Necrons continue to just receive slight buff after slight buff after significant buff after slight buff?
Yeah.
Like they're everywhere. The army's super good.
Yeah, they're literally everywhere. I see Necrons all the time. Right? And they actually also have multiple builds. Right? It's not even like a one build Necron that's like holding up the whole army. There's like Canoptic Court is technically still playable.
Well, it's a lot more playable now.
Yeah, and Star Shatter is also playable, and Index is also playable. Like
Canoptic Court gained like 50 points, which is not like serious, but like why is that gaining points?
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. It was an army that already showed up every now and then.
Why are Wraiths and Technomancers going down?
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying they went down a lot, but why is it happening at all?
They just shouldn't be going down at all.
Yeah.
So I think they're honestly holding hands with Blood Angels here to me. I think they're sitting at like top of A, like just very good.
Just a hell of a good army.
So next up we have Custodes. Kind of a weird army. This is another army I feel like I just kill normally. So I don't have a great opinion of them.
2 melee pressure bros look like an army that just charges across the table and tanks hits.
Maybe we should have brought someone who knows how to fire a gun, Jack.
What is a gun? Forge Fiend. I don't know.
I feel like I just look at a lot of these armies and I'm like, I just kill this.
You just kind of charge it.
I just charge it and it's fine, dude.
So I actually do play Custodes quite a bit. And I don't have a high opinion of Custodes right now. It's unfortunate because I do love my Custodes. You know, I have a whole Custodes army that I painted up myself. And if you know me, you know that's
it's not a common thing.
Not a common thing. And I just don't think they play 40k well. Like, they don't do the things you need to do to win at a high level in tournament 40k, which is you need to be dynamic, you need to be adaptable, and you need to be consistent. And they're just not any of those things. They're slow. Especially if you're on the lines of the Emperor build that doesn't have like Wardens with Blade Champs. But if you run the Wardens and Blade Champs, then the army is expensive.
Very expensive.
And you do not have a lot of units. And you're just basically going, I hope they can't kill Wardens. And if they can, bad news, Chief.
Yeah, the moment you go into an army that has 2 phases of damage, it's like, oh no.
Uh-oh. Yeah, like World Leaders are like the worst thing for Custodes at this point. They just murder elite infantry, sometimes through the forward, feel no pain. And then if they ever get seen by a Forge Fiend or overwatched by a Forge Fiend, it's like, guess what? Half your unit's gone. So that's not great.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, not everybody's World Leaders who mulches elite infantry for breakfast, but there's a lot of people who can handle what Custodes are putting on the table. Like Alaris Terminators going down 5 points a model is, that's just not enough for the only change in the army. Is there somebody at GW who just beats everyone else with Custodes? Why? What is it?
I think they're holding hands with GK.
I agree with that. They're a slow army that is honestly not that durable.
No.
Like, for being an army that has no dynamic other than just get hit and tank through it. And I play the army, man. Like, I get that there are things you can do, but to a certain extent, no, there aren't.
Especially with very little mortal wound protection as well. And there are just genuinely so many mortal wounds in the game.
Yeah, if you run Shield Host, you are essentially being extorted anytime you want to use the strat. Like, anytime your opponent throws mortal wounds at you, it used to be you just had a 4-up against it, and that was great.
Yep.
But now you have to spend a CP. Your opponent throws a CP a lot grenade.
And it's a lot worse.
And you spend a CP to 4-up feel no pain against it. You're still taking damage, and you're even on CP. That's bad.
That's very bad.
Never doing it against that. It's a slow, not dynamic army that hits like a truck. And if your opponent, if you can't figure that out, you're going to have a problem with it. And if you can figure that out, they're going to have a problem. And it's not so durable that, that people can't handle it.
Custodes lose to the measuring tape.
They lose a lot to the measuring tape, and they also lose a lot to canny opponents who know how to apply damage properly.
Yeah.
Because like Alaris Terminators are not that durable. Custodian Wardens are not that durable in the grand scheme of things, right? So if you lead into, Custodian Guard are not that durable if you lean into it. Wardens are pretty durable, but the moment you want them to do anything, they require character, and they are already 50 points small, so they're super expensive.
Yeah.
And so you get 3 units. Legitimately, the only part of that army that I think is truly world class is the Caladius. The Caladius Grav Tank is a tank most other armies would take if they were legally allowed to.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it is a crutch holding the entire Codex up. But that's fine. I love that crutch.
Yeah, anytime I go into Custodes and they don't have a Caladius, I'm just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, this is so much easier now.
Yep. Listen, Caladius, Marines would take Caladius if they could.
And then like the Solar build like really popped up for a bit and everyone's like, oh man, but Dreadnoughts. And then it just like fell off the face of the earth.
Wasn't that great, man?
Just wasn't that good.
Just wasn't that great. And Lions of the Emperor has some insane rules if you look at it in a vacuum, but then you're like, well, what actually helps Custodes play a game of 40k well? And the answer is like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Re-racking once a game abilities on the guys that set all flat damage to 1 and then hoping your opponent doesn't have the grenade keyword.
C for Custodes.
That's right.
Next up, Thousand Sons. This army is pretty cranked.
That's for sure.
It's pretty cranked, right? It got way cheaper. Legitimately, my list went down 200 points from the index version, right? Every data sheet got better. It has excellent strat support. It has multiple viable detachments. I think this is an army that rewards still very good skill, right? It has dynamic builds. I think it does everything that an S tier army wants to do, where it has good points and has good damage and has good mission play, right? I personally am currently a fan of the No Magnus build because I think you get more stuff out of it, and I think Thousand Sons really likes stuff. And since you do unlimited damage with like the 5 Rubric Marine units you bring, just fill it out the rest with like Mutalisks and trash and you're going to be okay.
Yeah, for sure. Good army.
Yeah, it's just really good. I think it plays the game great. I have genuinely nothing bad to say about Thousand Sons at the moment.
So are we saying it's up there?
It's up there. Yeah.
Up there in S tier?
Up there in S tier. The weakness is maybe it's a little sensitive to dudes in boxes behind walls, and
it's a little sensitive to fast melee pressure. And by a little sensitive, I do mean significantly sensitive to that, actually.
I think it depends. The flavor of that melee pressure honestly matters quite a bit. Like raw unit count matters a lot, right? Yep. For instance, like looking at, say, a Gladius build that has like multiple waves of stuff versus like Orks who have to push in a single turn are two like very different things, right?
Yeah.
And I think T-Sun's like an Orc matchup, and as long as they can control the wall turn, you can survive the game.
Yep.
Right.
And
but if you
pick
get
up the whole army in one turn once the wall is turned off.
Yeah. But I think if you get unrelentlessly pressured multiple turns, I think that's where Thousand Sons really can start to struggle, because there's nothing they just stick out in the objective that they're like, this will definitely survive next turn. Mutalisks, yes, are tough, but also like die when they need to.
Yeah, they're not unkillably tough. They're just tougher than they should be for their points cost.
Agreed.
I think that leads to it having some bad matchups, which is fine. Every army has bad matchups. And I think that T-Suns are a little skewier in their matchups than most.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just walk in front of T-Suns and go, I'm tough, like if you're Custodes, man, oh my God.
I love playing that matchup.
Oh my God. Like if you're Necrons and you just walk Wraiths onto the center and you're like, you can't deal with this, T-Suns are like, want to bet? But if you're, the EC matchup sounds heinous.
Yeah, I really struggled with that game. I played that with John just like one day, and it was just like, man, I really don't feel like I can do anything here.
I can't keep you off me, man.
Yeah.
And you kill Marines with a quickness. Same thing, I think, with Berserker Warband in particular, because everything in that army moves like 15 inches and charges you. Mm-hmm. And then the stuff that doesn't moves like 10 and charges you.
And even the Chaos Spawn are threatening.
Yeah, the Chaos Spawn will,
like, unironically,
will just kill a unit or kill most of a unit and then tie it up so that you can't get to the real stuff that's doing damage. So that sort of, those two armies I think are really bad for T-Suns. I actually played on the T-Sun side of the matchup into someone playing the World Eaters, and that felt horrible.
Yeah.
And I think the right Blood Angel builds can do the same thing. Maybe Bile can do the same thing. If you're looking to punish your local T-Suns player, learn how to run at them.
Yeah,
really fast.
So I think it's gonna be interesting, especially since the other aspect of this is that there's actually a bunch of different builds, which will all have their own independent bad and good matchups, right? So I think that's a big boon also to keep it in S tier, right? Because
you can adapt.
You can adapt very well, right?
And slower melee, like running at them lightning quick, is very hard for them to deal with.
Yep.
Running at them
slowly,
regular quick might not do it.
Yeah, you're just gonna get roasted.
Yeah.
Right.
So definitely something to play around with. Definitely something to look at when you are evaluating your T-Suns matchup.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Eldar, they took the biggest hit in the. I was talking about Ultramarines, but Eldar.
Goodbye, Ynnari.
Ynnari went from being one of the best armies in the game, in my opinion, but with a really funky matchup spread, to probably not the best, probably one of the worst detachments in Eldar.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy how hard they hit that detachment.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. That army was nuts.
I'm kind of sad. There definitely was not a middle ground reached here.
No, but I think the detachment honestly was so poorly like designed that it's impossible to fix. Right. Yeah. Like it felt like fundamentally broken, and the only way you can do it is either kill it or start over. Right.
Yeah. And unfortunately with Ynnari, almost all of their power was concentrated in lethal intent.
Yeah.
Lethal intent was okay. Before it was, if anything died in the shooting phase, no matter how it happened, like grenades, doesn't matter. At the end of the shooting phase, when everything's all said and done, you just moved a unit. You can even token that move to move further.
Insane.
It was nuts. It was the best single rule in the game. It single-handedly made Ynnari one of the best armies in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty huge. That being said, it has now changed in multiple dimensions. It is much, 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 much worse than it was before. And Ynnari as a whole does not have a breadth of rules to compensate for that. Their stratagem suite is downright poor. And while they had a 15-stage detachment rule that's still solid, they just don't have a detachment behind that to back it up. And Ynnari got just shot. Like just think of the hills, bang, gone. Which, again, no middle grounds reached. That's kind of sad. But that leaves you basically with Warhost and Aspect Host. And I'm not like the highest opinion of Warhost and Aspect Host as far as being able to play normal games of 40k well.
Yeah. I just don't like Eldar. I think they have a very significant get punched in the face problem.
They have a very significant... So if Eldar...
But even more fragile than other armies, right? Because they're literally just elves.
Yes. If you want to sit back and play a normal mobility-based game where you interact with your opponent in a little ways and whatnot, what you're going to find with Aspect and Warhost is you can't hold primary, period. You will never hold a center objective in your life, and your opponents will sometimes hold a center objective, and so you will likely lose.
Yeah.
I think the way forward for Eldar is, this is not going to be what most Eldar players are going to want to do because they're Eldar players, is to go hyper aggressive. Take things like the bike detachment, take things like Warhost and go mega aggressive. The army is still incredibly fast, especially with the tokens. And so what that means is you can get a lot of leverage out of taking your 2,000 points and hitting your opponent with absolutely all of it early.
I do think the Windrider host is very interesting.
Yes.
Quentin bad touched me.
Oh, blasted you to smithereens.
Blasted me to smithereens, dude. That was horrible. And I couldn't do much about it either, right? Like, that sucked.
Yeah, so I think you just have to rely on your speed because your opponent can always walk to an objective instead of walking to you. Using the speed defensively tends to lose you close games. That being said, you can use that speed offensively because Eldar still pack a serious punch.
They do a lot of damage.
They still do a ton of damage. So I think the way forward, if you want to do well with Eldar, is to take your army and make it as deliverable as possible to your opponent. Drop it on your opponent, cripple them in a single turn, get back in as many transports as you can, or fire and fade where you can, survive your opponent's hit with whatever remains of their army, and then try to execute them. And I think you can make that work. And in fact, I think that list would be actually hella fun for me to play. And I have a list on my phone that I think would be pretty dope to try out. That being said, that's not particularly well tested.
It's just coin flippy.
It's a little coin flippy,
Right.
and it's a little oops, something went wrongy, and it's a little, you have to always control the variables.
Yeah.
So that being said, I would put Eldar currently in like middle of B tier.
I would put them low B, maybe even C tier.
I would not personally, but I'll put them down there.
No respect for elves.
I know you don't. I know you have no respect for elves. I think if played well with that kind of play style, I think you can get results as if it were up in here, but you do have to play it well and you do have to not make mistakes.
Yeah, it's another army that rewards you playing perfectly, right?
Yeah.
Next up, Orks, my personal home and my love project. Orks took quite a few unfortunate nerfs here. List went up a little more than I was really anticipating.
Like 85, something like that.
Somewhere around there. And then Dread Mob and like Mordaka got like accidentally sideswiped again because 10-man flash kits went up, 10-man Ludas went up, trucks went up, Tank Bustas and Sags both went up. This is a pretty direct nerf to the shooting units. I think Warhorde is going to be the only surviving very competitive build.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
I think Warhorde is still great.
Yeah, Warhorde puts the pressure on hard.
Yeah.
Like you played a list at DreamHack that was like 3 units of Beast Snagger Boys with bosses, 3 units of Knobs with bosses, and Gazgul, and then
6 trucks.
Trash.
Yeah, 6 trucks, 2 Luda units, 1 Burner Boy unit, and then 2 units of Gretchen.
That's more trash than I would have expected.
Yeah,
massive punch you have.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a lot of stuff, so it ends up scoring quite well. That list will go up 30 points, which is fine.
What went up? Oh, the 2 flash kits?
No, the trucks.
The trucks.
There's no flash kits on that list. Yeah, just only 10-man flash kits went up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So the trucks went up 5 points, so it went up 30 points.
So you just take one of your like trash units and turn it into a Gretchen unit.
Haven't totally made up my mind what I'm going to do yet. You have like a few different options because you can like rapid ingress 1 melee squad and like cut a truck instead and then pick up an enhancement.
That works too.
Because the moment you kill one of the trash units, then you have like an awkwardly half-filled truck. And that triggers me.
It makes you very upset.
I don't like that.
You'd rather a guy come in from reserve than stand in a half-filled truck.
That's exactly right. So I haven't entirely made up my mind on what I'm going to do yet, but I think the core shape is going to remain the same. There's also like the triple Beast Snagger, triple Knob, triple Breakaboy, 6 truck triple Gretchen build, except now you just lose one Gretchen squad and you still have 9 damage units, and that list did not change at all, right?
That list is a lot of pressure.
It's like a lot of stuff. So I think Warhorde is still a very, very good melee army. I think specifically Warhorde is the best available army. It's going to land in A tier, but it's going to land in the bottom of A tier. And I think all the other Orc detachments, unfortunately, are going to fall to the earth.
Something like that.
Something like that. I would think so.
We might not be giving Guard enough credit.
I think Guard are still great, right?
Nobody goes above my boy World Eaters except for people I've already placed above my boy World Eaters.
Right.
That just leaves us with the new Chaos Knights.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because this army is changing quite a bit.
Yes, not really sure where to put it, honestly, because it just got previewed this last weekend.
Yeah, it's tough to evaluate because War Dogs changed a lot.
Yeah, War Dogs changed a ton.
Big Knights changed. Different defensive profiles now. Question mark whether that's a buff, nerf, side grade.
Yep.
What it is, because losing in toughness is a big deal. Because T10 to T9, that's a huge breakpoint.
Yeah, something I've been thinking about though is like T10 to T9 sometimes matters, right? Against last cans it never matters, for example, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. I just think when it matters a lot.
Sure, but wound count, which went up to 14,
Always matters.
always matters.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel yet about this army. I look at it, I think I honestly just need to get some good games into it, trying to figure out what it does, because the shape of it now is just so different than it was before,
Yep.
right? Like how it actually functions on the table.
And what I will say is I think War Dog spam is where it's at. Like it's where it's always at.
Yeah.
With Chaos Knights. And I think it's got some good rules in there for that type of army, like a flat 6 reactive move, stuff like that, fight on death on carnivores. So I think it's a pretty solid army. I'd be waiting to see how it does, but it feels very middle of the pack.
It feels middle of the pack unless like some crazy build comes out and then it's like, oh my goodness.
So anything in there look particularly out of place for you?
I think Drukhari could move to C.
Yeah, I think so. It's just not the same.
It's not the same as Admech and Imperial Agents.
I didn't think you would rescind your stance on the Dirty Elves.
I rescinded my stance. No, I still think they're bad.
They're
not that bad.
No, you can definitely make them work.
I don't think anything is too out of place here.
No, listen, this has been kind of our balance, our, tier list for the last 6 months or more has been a lot of A and B tier. Because every army we bring up, I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good army because it does X and Y really well and it can play the game pretty good. And then B tier. And like,
I think the jury is out on how good some of these armies actually are, right? So we have to wait and see.
Like Sisters, Chaos Knights, stuff like that.
Yeah. And then once the jury kind of comes back in, you can kind of reevaluate this and go from there. But in terms of an early prediction, I think this is probably about right. Of course, we're going to be wrong about something.
Yeah.
That's always how it goes.
I think it's a solid representation that I think
Meta's a good
90% of the meta is an army you can take to a tournament. And if you play well, you can win it.
I 100% agree. I love where the game's at right now. I think it's in a really good place. I think the Kings are a little too good, but not super dramatically too good. Like they can still lose, right? And that's what really matters. You get into an issue when the S tier armies literally can't lose to anyone below them, but that's not the case here.
No, you can definitely beat those with armies below. It's just harder, right? There's kind of a template for it for T-Sons, whether or not that is like a thing you can do in the actual game. It's up to the actual game. Emperor's Children and Death Guard are a lot harder to have an actual template for how to beat it. I guess Emperor's Children don't love toughness, like high toughness skews.
Yeah,
they don't love those, but they can still find their way through them. Death Guard just kind of have too much stuff. They're a little slow.
They're just a too much stuff problem, right? Like I don't think they're anything other than a too much stuff problem.
Well, it's like the amount of stuff they have combined with the amount of damage they have is a little too high. So I don't know, man. They're really good armies, obviously, but
I don't think anyone is sitting in the same tier as them, from what I can tell, though.
No. But I do think armies, you can beat an S tier army with a B tier army, for sure.
I agree. I would agree. 100%.
You just might have to work slightly harder than your opponent in order to make it happen.
I agree. Yeah. I think game's in a great place, and I'm very happy with this.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today on our Tier List Tuesday. We always have fun doing these.
It's good to just kind of talk about the game.
Just talk about the game. Just a good vehicle to have discussions about the game we all love. if you have any thoughts, if you have any comments, if you have anything you think we missed or anything you think we did particularly well, please go ahead and leave that down in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel if you want to see content like this more often, get it notified anytime we put something like this out.
Yep.
And if you want to see more in-depth content like this, more games, things like that, check out the warroom.vhx.tv. There's a free 3-day trial. So if you want to get all of the games that are being played with the new Balance Dataslate, that's the place to go. Check it out. Try out the free 3-day trial. Watch our games. See if you want to stick around.
Yeah, the war room's going to be a really good place. There's going to be a lot of really good content out there, state of the factions for every army in the game, as well as us kind of giving a lot of our thoughts and new list ideas, right? So a lot of good stuff in there.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Later. Bye-bye.